Record. Thanks for sticking with us. If you like what you're seeing, if you like our show, make sure you like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family. If you don't like us, tell your enemies. We'll take them too. Fuck it, we'll take everybody, right?
Yeah, and also if you feel so inclined, go ahead and comment down there. Tell us how great we are, how much we suck, how much we need to improve.
All of the above. We do love feedback. We have some sketches. We have some things. We're always looking for topics. If you want us to talk about something, if you want us to rant about something, if you want us to research something, we have a lot more shows. We have this talk show format. We have some other show formats as well. We just love to hear from people, whether you like us or not. It's always great to have the feedback.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, get a little bit ready. So we're back, and we're going to talk about. It's not new, but it's still awesome. I'm a little bit of a fan. Let's talk a little bit about Star Wars Rogue One. Hashtag some fuck. Okay, step back. Hey, thanks for coming back with us. We're going to talk to something a little bit close to our hearts. My heart, especially. If you can't tell, I'm a little bit of a fan. We're going to talk about Star Wars Rogue One. It's still great.
Absolutely, so fantastic.
Hashtag some gave all gave some. Gonna piss off any World War II vets still out there. That's okay. If it helps at all, I'm a vet. Doesn't really help. Doesn't matter.
I
Still
doubt
a great
they use
hashtag.
Twitter or
I think we're safe.
YouTube or.
I would be so pissed if my grandfather is like, what the hell did you say on Twitter? It's like, oh well, yeah. Thanks for watching the show, Grandpa.
Yeah.
So
Sorry we pissed you off on the first episode.
that's how I know I'm doing what's right.
Anyways, let's talk about Rogue One. I thought it was a great, very effective film.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it established its characters well.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that the Alliance was kind of murky and dark and not 100% squeaky clean.
I do. I feel like it gave depth to Lalo's characters. I know sometimes we criticize some outlets here and there. Especially you might have criticized them a little bit in this episode already, but Gizmodo made a joke about how they enjoyed getting to what was it? They had an article. I'll actually link it to them because it's a good article.
Yeah, check the description for all the links.
Thank you. It was an article about talking about the what the show taught us about the technology. Oh well, there must be Lee's video formats and there must be everything's universal plug and play because they have a little screw in thing. I felt like this movie made me feel the Star Wars universe more than the other ones,
Yeah, well, you see, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The Star Wars movies aren't really about the Rebel Alliance versus the Empire. They're primarily about the Jedi versus the Sith when it comes down to it. And the Empire versus the Rebellion is kind of, in most of the movies, left in the background.
Yeah.
I mean, we follow our Jedi characters almost exclusively, or the Sith antagonists almost exclusively, and their stories about them. They're not really about the Empire or about the Rebellion.
Well,
Rogue One
it's a family
was that movie.
Yeah. Well, and it was, and it added depth. I gotta admit, I almost had some Fallujah Ramadi style flashbacks in some of those scenes because they did a really good job of capturing it.
It's definitely a war movie.
But it was I didn't feel like it was gritty to be gritty, and I didn't feel like it was overly realistic to be overly realistic. They didn't talk down to the viewer. They just put you in this wonderful universe and expected you to be able to make the connections.
Yeah.
Now, and I'll give you this. Disney, I love what they've done between Marvel and Star Wars. I think they have a lot of respect for the properties. Um, but I will say this: Star Wars does have an advantage because they can do that because everybody grew up with Star Wars. Everybody knows Star Wars, so they don't have to do as much explaining. But it was nice that like they didn't try to teach me every little bit of the way. And I love the characters.
Well, I feel like this fleshed out the Rebel Alliance and the Empire in ways that you've only seen done in the expanded universe before.
Oh yeah.
Like in novels or comics or video games, you'd see this part of the Empire, like the backbiting and the people trying to climb over each other for station and all that stuff. And you'd see the rebellion making almost terrorist-like attacks. You'd see their deep cover agents killing sources and stuff like that. All in the expanded universe before. This is the first movie that really delved into that.
Well, it was great because they had a respect for the continuity from before. They brought in some expanding universe stuff, even though it's all legends now.
Mm.
The movie, I think, was successful because of the characters, and because the characters were compelling characters. Um, there's not a single character I didn't like. I actually we're a little bit different as far as the new Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
Uh,
we'll get to that in a second because I am going to bring that up.
oh, great. But um, I like I like you know Ridley and all those other
All the
characters.
new actors, yeah.
Yeah. But like they feel a little squeaky clean. Like even whenever it's something like a terrible, heart wrenching moment, um, I don't feel like as impassioned by them or as grabbed by them.
Like it is almost like they're not making a choice to be a moral person. They just are a moral person.
Yeah, and
Whereas in Rogue One, at the end, where all the soldiers are volunteering for the suicide mission, and they're all like, "Well, we've done some horrible things. Let's take this chance
do
to
something.
try and do something worthwhile."
It was great because there was like two or three cheesy scenes in Rogue One that I was like, ee. But honestly, for the most part, like it was just a. If it had not been a Star Wars movie, I still would have enjoyed it, and I think that's like a hallmark of a good movie in this thing, and it makes me excited because suddenly I'm excited for the other anthology movies because I can
Yeah,
see that they can portray the universe and they can tell a story without it being about the Jedi or the Force as much. I mean, yes, you have some, you have the Wills, the Guardian of the Wills. You have, Vader in there for a brief little bit.
hmm
But they serve to like enhance the story. They weren't really centerpieces at all.
yeah. Um, Now I'd like to go over some things that I didn't like about the movie. It's gonna be a short list. Um,
So thank you all for tuning in to a live murder. This is going to be awesome. We're going to start with a little bit of stabbing.
the first thing that I didn't really like about the movie is I felt the first part of the movie was really fast. Um, I didn't think the first maybe 20 minutes of it was paced that well. It just seemed like things happened like boom, 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 and they wanted to get them to a place where they could tell their story. Um, but after that point, after Scarif, I guess it was,
Yeah.
then I thought the movie panned out perfectly. But the time before that,
Well, Scarif
um,
was
the
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 end planet that you're talking
oh
about.
yeah, I'm talking
Jeddah.
about Jeddah. Jeddah.
Jeddah.
All right. From the beginning until Jeddah, I felt like it was really kind of fast, just boom, 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 set this up,
Yep.
so we can tell the story we want to tell. And then after they got to that point, it was all good after that.
I can see why you say that, and I can't help but wonder. You hear a lot about the reshoots and the extra time in the editing room. You can't help but
Hmm.
wonder what happened in there. This is gonna be one of those ones where I'm really excited to see like the director's cut or the extended version
Yeah,
because it'll be exciting to see like, well, what didn't make the cut?
yeah, and
I only
I can
pray it's
get what
more aligned with Vader because oh my gosh, he was such a badass.
I can. I could say I really would like to see Jin uh, as an underage gorilla with Saw Gerrera. I'd like to see that. At least establish that she has this training in the show don't tell type of movie making.
Uh, you know,
Uh,
do you see that as a pacing issue? I kind of liked that because I kind of liked that. If you had seen the training and that kind of stuff, then you might have. I just feel like it might have like taken away the
or I
whole.
mean, like, what did she do to get thrown into Imperial prison? If it said in the movie, I don't even remember because
Um,
it happened that fast.
no, it doesn't. But honestly, like, and that's gonna be a taste difference between you and me because, for me, I kind of thought that was kind of a fun place to start. Well, maybe not fun. Prison's not fun, kids. But it was an interesting location to start off, and it kind of immediately said that it was interesting because here she is, she's in an imperial prison, but she's not like a happy-go-lucky rebel. She just happens to be there because she's in there for some other reason.
Yeah.
It's not that
Um.
everybody in imperial prison was automatically anti. Like what I liked about the expanded universe and what I thought they captured well was that it was not just black and white. There were good people and bad people on both sides.
Mhm.
Obviously, the Empire had a lot of problems,
Yeah.
but you know, um, there were still like normal people on the other side, and it makes the universe because if you imagine a universe of just billions of countless like heartless killing people, it,
Yeah.
it kind of makes it a little bit less realistic.
Right. Which brings me to my second point that I didn't like as much. The CG characters. CG Tarkin was okay. He hit the uncanny valley sometimes though. But he was pretty decent. CGI Princess Leia was horrible.
I've got to say, we've been able to see some amazing CG both in games and movies of late. I was very disappointed in the level of CG. I felt like honestly Tarkin, whenever I almost wish it scenes. I don't know how they could have done this, but the scene where you see his face in the reflection, I felt like that was really well done.
Hmm.
And I was like, man, they should just have the entire movie every time he has a part, just it's him in a reflection.
Yeah, reflection.
Um,
Um,
Leia was very poorly done. I felt like that was the low point of the movie. I understand why they wanted to end with that cat point. I liked it. I loved the scene up to it because I felt like, and this is something we've talked about, they made Vader into what he really was in this universe, a
yeah.
force of nature that was not to be stopped. And honestly, those rebels were trying to run away from him the same way you see characters running away from fucking monsters and aliens in movies. Like, get me away from this force of nature that's about
And
to kill me.
that goes back to the other movies being more about the Sith and the Jedi, the Empire and the Rebellion. And that scene kind of shows why, in a way, because they're treated as so much above the squabble of the Empire versus the Rebellion because they are.
Well,
It seems like a lot of the times that take Emperor Palpatine,
yeah.
it seems a lot of the times that he likes being at the top of the Empire, but he doesn't care about it at all. What he cares about is that
He's
he
advancing
beat the
in the
Jedi
agenda. Yeah.
and he's on top. He doesn't care about how the Empire functions or the people that live in the Empire. The Empire is below him.
Well, I mean, I have a slightly different take on it, but I definitely see where you're coming from. But I am going to agree with you on in the original movies. it was hard to, even though like you had like the scene where he's like engaging in Hoth and that kind of stuff, like you see him, he's still a badass. That's true, but like you don't really get to see um, how important it was on either side for these characters to show up on a battlefield, you know,
Mm,
or like you don't get to see like because the Force is such a key central part of the movie, like you you kind of get used to it. It's almost like old hat, so it's like, oh, of course you could
yeah.
lift that out of the swamp. Who doesn't do that? And so in Rogue One, you really got to see like, um, well, the hundreds and hundreds of billions of people who are normal.
Who are not force sensitive,
Yeah,
and how much they compare to somebody who is.
yeah, I mean,
Uh,
Vader like cut through those people.
like nothing. He looked bored in that scene
Yeah,
when he was just waving away the blast. It looked,
it wasn't like
and
he
he
was.
was supposed to. I
Yeah,
think.
I think the whole point was it was supposed to be effortless. It's like he didn't stop; he kept striding on because
Yeah.
he was a force of will, and he knew those blaster bolts weren't going to get to him.
I mean,
it was so much riffraff in his way.
and I think that was to illustrate how much more powerful the Force users were than regular people,
Oh, yeah.
and to bring into perspective the difference between the expanded universe
Well,
and
and it kind of helped me because
the movies, I guess.
so and I'm having problems with my memory and names right now, which is killing me. I hate that this is happening in the show, but that's the whole point of trying to do a as
Doing
edited
it off the cuff, yeah.
yeah, total improv talk show, folks. So you get what you get. I love the characters in 7. I did. I actually liked them a lot. I liked some of the banter. I liked some of the lines, but um, it doesn't easily show you how much conviction these people had to have to stand up to him because
Yeah.
it just shows you like the heroes, and so you kind of take it for granted that well, of course they're standing up to him, but it just shows that like the Rebel Alliance, the troopers on that ship, those were military men who were running for their lives, and you can't blame them.
From something that was just way more powerful than anything they could understand.
Yeah.
And the way he looked after the Tantive 5 took off
Mm-hmm.
from the ship,
Yeah.
you could not convince me that he didn't then go back through the ship and kill everybody on it.
Yeah. He was like, it just became a bad day for everyone on this motherfucker.
Yeah, all those people are
Yeah.
dead in my head canon.
It's
Oh, that was so awesome when all the ships are jumping out to hyperspace and that all of a sudden, boom, the Superstar Destroyer just in.
yeah.
And all the other ships were all like, oh,
Well, and I liked it because what Rogue One did do was also it showed, um, you know, in the Star Wars movies, like you had like the background, you had the canon, you had like if you hear like the stories and the talks, like the Rebel Alliance was always like a smaller collection of planets, blah blah blah, pulled together their resources, um, but their fleet still seemed a little bit sturdier. But in this one, like their goal was never to win. Their goal was
But
just
to-
to not lose as bad.
yeah.
And whenever like even a moderate imperial presence showed up, you saw because I think like part of like the magic of the whole story is that the odds they were against, and sometimes whenever you see like the giant Mon Calamari cruisers and stuff duking it out one for one with the Star Destroyers, you're like, yeah, with 100 more of those, they could probably win. It makes sense. And now you're like,
Yeah.
oh, and there were so many. And um, I've got to say, I'm a little bit of a geek here, but it was so nice to see a Victory Star Destroyer 2 in Rogue One above Jeddah. How do I know it was a VSD2? Well, because kids, if you had an atlas or any of the visual dictionaries as a kid or encyclopedias, you will know that the ISD cannot go close to the surface of the planet. It has to be Victory Star Destroyer. Victory Star Destroyer all the way. Had a compliment. It was great to see it. Um, and it just made me kind of feel like a good person. It was
All
nice.
right.
I love to see because actually, as a kid playing the West End games while playing Star Wars games, VSDs were my favorite. So I got to see a VSD, and they didn't call that out, but obviously since it was like right above the city, I could tell. Maybe they just called it a Star
Yeah.
Destroyer.
Um. Now we're gonna talk about what other people are saying about the movie.
But it's the best thing ever.
Um. And how maybe I don't agree with any of the critics on this, or I do agree with the critics, I guess, because the majority of them love the movie.
Yeah.
But there are certain people out there that just hate it, and
Who?
I'm trying to listen to some of their arguments. Maybe not hate it, but have
Discounting.
arguments that are like, oh, it was far too corporate. A corporate boardroom made this movie. It's
Oh.
keying in on your nostalgia. It has X-wings and TIE fighters.
No.
It has characters from the prequels.
I.
It's all like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, you remember this? The movie was just setting you up for like a nostalgia boner or something. I will say that if you want something that's corporate, that's obviously geared to play on your nostalgia for the old movies, that has
You're
things
gonna
from
say
the old movies that make no sense in that context, you need to watch episode 7.
I will say I will agree with you in that episode 7 got a pass. I like how episode 7 was done because I felt like it created a much needed connection to the previous movies, and I enjoyed the characters, and I enjoyed the relationships of the characters, and I enjoyed the scene. I enjoyed the movie. I really did. For me, it literally goes Empire Strikes Back, and then honestly now episode 7 and Rogue One are tied behind Empire Strikes Back, and then you've got
I like Rogue One better, but that's obvious from hearing me talk about
yeah,
it.
I know. And now you all know too. I'll tell you his address. Check the description. I'm not advocating you murder my co-host. But so having said that, please don't murder him. That was mostly a joke. Um, um, like I do because I did see some of those same comments, and it was frustrating because it's like I saw that in 7, but in Rogue One there really wasn't like you had a lot of great Easter eggs, and some of them I had to hunt for, like the ships from like Star Wars Rebels, and some of those little key doodads, like, and I appreciated them being in there, but like for the most part I had to hunt for those. They weren't just like, oh, by the way, that guy over there, totally Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
Um,
But stuff like, I won't call out anybody specifically, but the people saying, oh, it's feeding on your nostalgia because there are X-Wings and TIE fighters in it. And it's all like, the movie takes place right before A New Hope. It wouldn't make sense for them not to be there.
I will say this. Since we talked about CG earlier, I want to give props to everyone who participated with Rogue One because how they sliced in like the previous footage for like Red 5 and
Yeah,
stuff.
for the fighters, that was pretty impressive.
I love that, and also now we know why Red 5 had an opening.
Yeah.
So Luke, here's looking at you, buddy. That's how.
But I mean, and the fact that they were all like, oh, the guy who played Bail Organa is in it again. It's Bail Organa, and so like in canon, he was a major player in getting the Rebel Alliance started.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason why Leia is big in the Rebel Alliance, is because Bail Organa helped start it. It makes sense for him to be there. It's not just keying on your nostalgia.
Yeah.
It makes sense in the context of the movie.
And it does because honestly, there were some places there where you almost would have been like, but why were they not there? Like that's why I know why they want to do Leia, and I appreciate what they did with her, and I appreciate what her line meant. But since I know it's all Disney now, but if in 20 years, guys, y'all decide to go back and play some video magic again and update the CG on that, that'd be swell because a much older version of me would be very happy with a Leah that was slightly less creepy looking and
Yeah.
and didn't come off of a PBS Kids show.
But I mean, and people pointing out the AT-AT says, "Oh, well, that's just playing on nostalgia." It's all like, well, it makes sense for Imperial equipment to be on an Imperial base. I mean, at some point, I just don't know what some of these people are talking about.
I appreciate that they didn't go back and try to make like a whole bunch of brand new equipment and brand new ships and brand new vehicles, and then everybody be confused that well, why
Yeah,
weren't they in the original movies?
yeah.
Um,
Well, the U-wings were kind of like that,
yeah, and
but
they try.
apparently there were very few of them. And they mostly got destroyed.
Yeah, and then you have the Death
But
Troopers too, but apparently like those were pretty much like on the research facility. Um,
and those kind of got wiped away when
yeah.
they destroyed the entire facility. Well, spoilers.
Um,
Um,
if you have a research base and you blow it up, you're gonna lose some research.
so I mean, it makes sense why some of those were never seen again, and also we never went back to a tropical planet in any of the previous movies.
Yeah.
In episodes 4, 5, and 6, no tropical planets, so they could have had shore troopers at other places. We don't know. They just never made it back to another planet like Scarif. And we have seen planetary variations of stormtroopers before. There were the snow troopers on Hoth.
Sand troopers.
There were the sand troopers that were on Tatooine.
Mm-hmm.
There were the scout troopers on Endor.
Yep.
I mean, variations of the stormtroopers do exist, so it is very possible, even likely, that there are more stormtroopers out there.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I mean, and it was nice to see another variation. Like I enjoyed seeing another variation. Um, I do have to admit now there's a part of me that's like, oh man, the Jedi Temple got blowed up. Wish we had seen like 10 more seconds of it, but again, um, I enjoyed it because it's like that kind of showed again how few fucks the Empire had to give for the Jedi
Yeah,
and all that.
and again, I think a lot of the vitriol about nostalgia, playing on nostalgia and stuff like that that's coming to Rogue One is kind of left over from Episode 7
Mhm.
because I think a lot of people wanted to say it then, but felt like they couldn't. So now this movie comes out, and it's maybe not supposed to be held as sacred, so they feel like they can just unload on it.
I do have yeah, and I agree with that. I do have to admit though, I'm super pleased with how well it did.
Yeah,
Not just Star Wars. Anytime there's a movie that tries to tackle a subject or has compelling characters, um, uh, man, I love whenever they get the recognition they want. Um, you know, so it was great to see the Rogue One did
yeah,
do well because my worry was that they were gonna because I feel like Disney took some chances. I felt like it would have been very easy for them to say, okay, at least a couple of characters live for a sequel, and they didn't.
yeah,
They said, you know what? By gosh, spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Everybody's gonna die. Now the only thing is, and I think actually when we went to the theater to watch it, I said it coming out. At some point, whenever they're getting ready to go down there, they should have said, "We're Team Bothan," and then that would have helped a little bit there.
yeah. Well, the thing that really killed me, the death that really killed me, was the droid K2SO. Oh,
Um,
that made me tear up just a little bit. I was a little misty eyed after that one. That was
he was a great, and honestly, the film ended on a good note. I mean, it was sad, but a good note.
yeah, yeah. Um,
And
so
it
I mean,
showed that
overall, I thought it was a good movie.
Oh, very much. I think we will happily agree on that.
Yeah. And at some point, we might discuss Star Wars in a little bit more depth. Maybe give our ranking of which movie is on top.
We could do that. We could
Um,
also
what our
say
list is.
who's pro Empire, who's pro Rebel. All I'm saying is, if you want the
Um,
trains to run on time, ha 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 ha. Yeah.
but yeah, that's pretty much what I had to say about Rogue One. Do you have anything else?
Nope. Just if you disagree with what you heard, say something about it. If you agree with what you heard, say something about it. If you have any topics you'd like us to discuss or any topics you'd like us to research, this is the first episode, so we encourage you to suggest things, say things, and we thank you for checking in with us.
Absolutely.
So, uh, here's to you, Internet.
Yeah. Thanks, YouTube, and we'll see you next time.
Good deal. So we got a show.
All right. So, how long was that clip? I don't feel like that one was.